Hey there, Kenneth French of Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. We're very, very happy you stopped by. Either you're going to watch this or listen to this because you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably an entrepreneur who's either just starting out or you've been around for quite a while and you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably a real estate investor, maybe even a real estate agent, maybe a professional or of some sort, professional advisor of some sort. And well, you are stopping by because you need some valuable advice from one of the top industry leaders there is. Anyway, thank you very much. Once again, Kenneth French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Really glad that you stopped by.
I am so excited for this conversation with Elaine. Oh my gosh. Elaine, let's just go into it right off the bat. What's the one biggest thing that you've done, in your opinion, that can add value to an entrepreneur?
Well, so my biggest thing that I can add is that I have 7 children and I built a 6-figure vintage furniture business in the middle of a pandemic, which is a very interesting feat, not one that I thought that I would do after having a speaking and writing career. So that's definitely something that I could talk about because it definitely dovetails with the real estate market very well because of all the influx we had into the Texas area, and the real estate market and the furniture market really do go hand in hand.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. So wait a minute. Why are you wearing that getup, by the way?
So this is my crown and sash. I am United States of America's Mrs. Texas, and I won this title in November, and I will be competing in less than 40 days for the national title of United States of America's Mrs.
Holy mackerel. That in itself is cool, by the way. And you're doing that somehow, and you've amassed all the stuff you've amassed in your career somehow with 7 kids. I don't even know how you do all that.
You know, they came one at a time. Luckily, we didn't have any twins. Me and my husband got married 22 years ago this August, and our oldest is 21 and our youngest is 7. And so I spent a lot of years in the background building up what I am doing now. So it kind of is now culminating. Looks like the mountaintop experience right now, but it is 25 years in the making.
And you've written a whole bunch of books. Tell me a little bit about those books, that experience, and then I'm going to ask you a little bit about marketing because I'm coming out with a book, and I think a lot of our people should be coming out with a book that would help them know their subject matter and also how to market themselves, basically a big business card. But anyway, go ahead and tell us about your books if you don't mind.
You know, book writing is a really big focus on mindset of knowing that you have something worthy enough to say to put a book out there. So it really is showing that you believe in yourself and your product enough to write something, or your wisdom, or whatever it is. So for me, I started out blogging about 10, 15 years ago when blogging was in its heyday. I always wanted to be a storyteller. I didn't know that the best story I was going to tell was my own. But I started writing homeschool books and Christian devotionals. And then eventually, when I was pregnant with my 6th child, I thought, I'm never going to write the great American novel. It's just 6 babies. There's just not enough time in the day. And that's when I published my first novel. And so it holds a very sweet place in my heart. I've been on my own book launch teams, and then I've been on some best-selling author book launch teams. So I know both sides of what you want as an author for a book launch team, and then being on a book launch team, how to do that effectively.
Real quick, explain a little bit about the book launch team, because I know how important that is. I have a number of people, a number of buddies in that industry, in the self-publishing industry, and they've told me how important it is. But why don't you, for the people who are going to be watching and listening to this, why don't you explain a little bit more about the book launch team and what it is?
Sure. So you want to definitely pick out people that are going to do you justice. You don't want to get your best friend who doesn't read very much, who doesn't have a social media following. What you're wanting to do is find people that are already in the industry of promoting themselves and their business, and your book perfectly dovetails with what they are already doing. And that means that you might have to reach out to people you don't know that you think would be a good fit. And so getting, 10 to 15 people that are really solid, and then creating a very specific, easy to follow calendar marketing plan that it is about 30 days, probably not any more than that, because people will start falling off about the 4-week mark. And you just want to go in, go hard, tell them exactly what to post, give them copy paste things that they can post to X or to Instagram, help them know how to make videos if they don't know how to make videos or Instagram reels or TikTok reels. Just be like, it has to be like book launches for dummies, because most of the time people aren't going to have ever been on a book launch. And so it's your job to take the bull by the horns and make sure that your book launch team is the absolute best. And then if you're on a book launch team, making sure that you're doing the things that you would want that someone else to do for you.
Tell from listening to you for the short time I've listened to you, how you've become so successful. It's a pretty wicked story. Actually, why don't you tell us a little bit more, although you've already weaved some in about your background. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background? Because it's a killer story.
Yeah. So I, was having babies, doing all the things. We always struggled financially because we just had so many people in our family. And I finally decided to give up my speaking and writing career because I was done. I was like, this is not working. It's not hitting the way that I thought that I wanted it to hit. And during that time, we went on a vacation to Hawaii. It was the first time we'd ever gone on a big fancy vacation where we flew instead of just something cheap like camping. Came home to $10,000 worth of debt. I got really depressed and prayed, Lord, please help me. I got to figure out a way out of this debt, and saw something on the side of the road, started picking up stuff on the side of the road, doll houses, igloo containers, and just selling them on Facebook Marketplace. Within 6 months, I paid off $10,000 worth of debt, switched it to vintage furniture, and within my first e-commerce year, turned it into a 6-figure vintage furniture business that is successful in Austin, right in the middle of the pandemic when everybody was coming into Austin wanting to redo their houses. And it worked out really well for me.
Obviously, it's worked out really well. So you mentioned Austin. Do you do business all over the place or mainly Austin? How does that work?
I focus mainly on large items, which means that most of my business is local, but I do have a national Instagram audience, and I do ship, the smaller items, rugs and things that, are easily shipped. I've had people drive in from, North Texas to pick up giant armoires that they see on eBay. And so most of it is local, but every once in a while I dabble with the national level.
I understand. By the way, how does someone get a hold of you if they're interested in, buying some of your furniture, or well, maybe having you speak as an example? How does someone get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the ElaineMingus.com is the easiest way to get a hold of me and to see all. I offer master classes on how to sell products and how to market products, but I also teach on how to speak effectively in a short amount of time, getting that like kind of 3-second audio bite that will grab attention on social media. And then for my furniture, it's called Curb Vulture, which is kind of a nod to me selling stuff from the curb. Because one day I grabbed the wheel and I yelled out really loud at midnight that I was a vulture of the curbs, and that's the name, and it stuck. And it stuck with me. So that's where a lot of my furniture is. Right now, we're obviously taking a little bit of a sabbatical because I'm doing this, speaking on Capitol Hill for sexual violence survivors, and doing podcasts like this. Furniture will come back, but not right this second.
No, I understand. So, by the way, you mentioned the website. What is the website again? Can you spell it for me?
ElaineMingus.com, ElaineMingus.com.
Yeah, and for those out there, please do visit her website. It's an entertaining little website, and I think she does so many things, and her history and her story is really unique. And I think she can add value to a lot of the people out there. So please do stop by her website. And by the way, who am I? Kenna French, Bass Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. I'm hanging out with Elaine Mingus, and obviously she's wearing a unique outfit. So tell us a little bit more about kind of your journey. It sounds like, who knows, you want to make it even a bigger journey in the pageant world. So tell us a little bit about that real quick.
So I started pageantry because I was in vintage furniture. I kind of went to a event and Miss America was speaking, and she said, if you have a crown and a sash and a story, you'll get into places that you normally wouldn't be invited into. And my story is one of overcoming childhood abuse, which led to an eating disorder and a heroin addiction, and culminated with me walking to a church and finding faith and, going on from there. And so I said, okay, well, I have a story. And then the next week I saw Mrs. Universe speak, and I'd never seen one pageant girl, let alone 2 pageant girls. And I saw them in less than 2 weeks. And I said, okay, I got to, she said, put on a crown and a sash. And even if you were saying the very same thing before, if you put on a crown and a sash, people start paying attention. And so that's what I've done. And I've been on over 80 podcasts in the last 2 years, on, 10, 15 stages in the last last year or so. And, it's definitely proven itself to be true. And so now I am just continuing on this journey. I didn't win right away. It took me about 5 tries. I called myself the Susan Lucci of pageantry, which, if you don't know, Susan Lucci was a daytime soap star that went up for an Emmy, I think, 20 years in a row, and just continually lost. And so I felt like that a little bit, but then, this 5th time I won the title of the United States of America's Mrs. Texas, and it couldn't have been at a better time.
Usually I would say that's a big deal. That's the lead. But for you, it's, you've done so many things. You're multi-dimensional. It's an interesting story. So I'm going to ask a few more questions about your background. So, because I think that in itself is a story. What's the biggest thing you've learned to an entrepreneur? What's the biggest, because you know how it is as an entrepreneur, ups and downs, and it's hard. Now, what would you say an entrepreneur who's down in their luck, especially right now, what's the one thing they should be looking to do or thinking about as they're at the bottom, if you will, just like when you had that addiction issue as an example?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have spent most of my years at the bottom. I think that it's easy to look at someone's success story and be like, oh, that's where they always live. But a lot of my years were, in changing diapers and wishing that I could be where I'm at now. And so one of the things that I've learned as an entrepreneur is, when I was selling vintage furniture, sometimes there's slumps around Christmas time. No one's buying big, giant pieces of furniture. Number one, to always prepare. But number two, use those times when you are in a slump to work on the things that when you're super busy, you weren't able to work on. And so realizing that every single season is useful and good. And so there's sometimes seasons of rest, and just like the winter time, we kind of burrow in and we tuck in and we don't do as much. And then in the springtime, we, get out and start cleaning out all the closets and stuff like that. It's the same with business. You just realize what season you're in and appreciate that season for what it is. And then just know that this too shall pass. It won't ever always be the mountaintop, and it won't ever always be the valley. Most of life is just plodding along, doing the hard work, and then, trying to remember the valley when you're on the mountaintop, and when you're on the mountaintop, remembering the valley.
Wow, look at you. Yeah, you can tell you're a marketer from just hearing what you say. You know what I mean? You're there's no doubt about that. I'm going to pick your brain a little bit more about marketing as a result. So it seems like you've done 10 books, which in itself is unbelievable. And that's pre-AI from the sounds of it, when it's easy now. Number one. Number two, it sounds like you do some speaking. So you're quasi, maybe not even quasi, you're an influencer, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, one, how did you get to that point? This is going to sound weird. One, how'd you get to that point? And two, what are you doing to optimize your influence, if you will?
Sure. So I graduated with a degree in journalism. My husband was in video, and that's how we met. And so I've always had a knack for telling stories. Telling stories is probably the number one tip that I could give any marketer. It does not matter if you are selling the best product. If your story does not resonate with your customer, it won't matter. People don't buy from the best. They buy from the person who they connect with the most. And so on top of understanding that, and also keeping ahead of the trends, learning how to use social media, learning how to use AI, not being a late adapter, being an early adapter. And that is how you can keep on top of those trends. And realizing, and it's a mindset thing, is that you're not too old. You're not too whatever. You can do all the things. If not you, then who? Why not you going out there making the stupid Instagram and TikTok trends? I mean, everybody's like, oh, that's so cheesy, or nothing is cheesy if it puts money in your pocket. If it takes you and your children to Hawaii so that you can connect with your family and build relationships. Don't worry about the haters. Those haters, they aren't your people anyhow, and you're never going to please them. So be happy, have fun, find your tribe, and market to them, telling your story and why they should connect with you.
There really is a tribe out there. For all these years, I know some pretty big marketing guys, I'm embarrassed to say, although I think I'm too cool, so I don't listen to their marketing advice, which I'm stupid for not listening to their advice. But, plus I had an ego, so I'm like, oh, I'm too good for marketing. And I shouldn't even say that, but I'm telling the truth. And that was wrong. I was totally wrong. Plus, I didn't want to, open myself up and, do stupid stuff on the internet. But the way I look at it is just like you just said, it doesn't matter. I mean, if it ends up making you money, who cares? Plus, you're going to find your tribe, no matter what, especially if you're being genuine in yourself. So That resonated what you just said to me in a big way. But now, but it's got to be hard now that you're up there, you're an influencer. It's got to be hard continuing to keep that hamster wheel going. What would you say to someone who's already, kind of at the senior level of being an influencer?
Yeah. I think that you have to remember that every Olympic athlete also has a coach. If you're at the top level and you don't have a coach because for whatever reason, you're like, oh, I've already got it, then you're doing yourself a great disservice. Hire a coach, somebody that's gone before, above you, has create or amassed more wealth, has amassed more following than you, and pay them for their time to get their advice on how to get to that next level. Because you could be a millionaire and then there's somebody above you who's a billionaire, and then there's somebody above you who's a multi-billionaire. And so there's always something to be learned. And sometimes it can be really tempting, especially as you've like made it, to be like, oh, this is so silly or this is so simple. But it it is simple. But sometimes when we get into all the nitty-gritty of our day-to-day life, we complicate it and forget the message and the voice that we came across at the beginning. And so sometimes just regaining is part of the trouble.
Are you one of those people who can be hired to be a consultant for someone who's whatever, selling widgets or selling real estate as an example?
Yeah, so I am actually, after this whole pageant thing is on, I'm going to be kind of shifting my focus to more consulting, which of course I've done consulting in the past, but I'm going to be really hyper focused on helping people share their story in an effective way, whether that be for social impact or for buying products, because I truly believe that outside of the gospel message, the greatest story you could ever tell is your own, and being really authentic, who you are, really leaning into that and stop trying to be like everybody else. God created you unique with a unique thumbprint, and He wants you to thrive in what you're doing. And that is only going to come when you are 100% authentically you, doing exactly what you love doing.
Wow. Once again, this is Kenner French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs, hanging out with Elaine Mingus, who really misses everything. She knows a lot about everything. So we're going to get ready to close the shop here, but I have a few more questions if it's okay. So who would be your perfect avatar for you to grow your business, as a matter of fact?
So I have about two people that are my hired coaches and one person I watch. And I've kind of really dissected why I chose them. Number one, my social media coach, which I do lots of social media. She's fun. She's quirky. She is, easy to listen to, easy to look at because she has a certain look. And so I'm like, okay, I like her because that's kind of part of my personality. I'm kind of goofy and I, don't
Hmm.
mind wearing my crown and a sash, which is a very specific look. And then for my business coach, it's a very no nonsense type of girl who's like, she says all the things that no one wants to hear, but everybody needs to hear. And that's part of my personality too, because I want to make sure that when I'm talking to you, that I'm adding value every single word that comes out of my mouth. And so that's why I've hired her. And then there's another one that she's another social media coach that I've used for coaching, and she just gets on there, no makeup, sometimes makeup, sometimes not makeup, just being really authentically speaking to her tribe, and not caring about always having it all together, and just giving that core message that she's giving. And so I feel like when you're looking at somebody, a coach, make sure they're really resonating, not the person who showed up on the sponsored ad because you looked at something once and now they're retargeting their ad. That person that you keep going back to, whether it be on social media or YouTube or wherever, and you're like, that person, for some reason, that person resonates with me. And you never want to take advice from somebody that you don't want to be exactly like.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get that. So you mentioned social media a couple of times, and that's obviously a big component of what you're doing. Give us a couple little tips about social media that you think would help a real estate agent, as an example, or someone trying to sell widgets, as an example.
Yeah. Number one, figure out your personality. Know yourself. That's the biggest thing, because if you're going to come out there and try to be funny and you're not a funny person, don't be that person. Number two, clean your camera lens. I cannot tell you how many times I see videos with people who did not. I am obsessively cleaning my camera lens. There's nothing worse than having a dirty, greasy looking camera lens. That's probably one of my biggest pet peeves. And just remember to, when you are scrolling, what stops you dead in your tracks? And try to emulate that. Make a little folder on your social media of things to copy and just copy them and then do it dirty. Get out there, do it. Don't be scared. Stop. If you need to mute or unfollow or unfriend your people that you think are going to judge you, your mom or your sister, your brother, do it. Like that they're not paying your bills. So get on there, do it. Just start doing it somewhere. I don't care if you're, 95 or you're 15. Just get out there and start making content because the world deserves to hear your message.
I've got, I think a lot of people kind of try to perfect all their social media. And what happens is they plan for a year, then 2 years, then 3 years, and they don't do anything when all they have to do is, get out there, just do it. Now you mentioned Instagram. It sounds like you're, trying to broaden or make it a bigger, much bigger audience. Tell us a little bit more about your Instagram.
So I have 3 Instagrams. One's my personal, one's my pageant, which I'll only have for the year of the pageant, and then my vintage furniture Instagram. I also have a TikTok and a YouTube channel. So it just depends on which platform and what kind of content. So YouTube is better for long form content. They've done shorts, and maybe if you're in the under 20 crowd, you might be watching YouTube shorts. But you got to know your audience where, if your audience is a 45 plus crowd, Facebook, maybe Instagram for women, a little bit more, the 25, pretty much any for Instagram is pretty good. TikTok is a little bit younger crowd. So knowing what your content is, how you want to market, who is actually spending money, and putting the right content on the right platform.
I understand. That makes perfect sense. And by the way, if people go to your website, which you already mentioned, will we be able to see all your social media handles? So we'll be able to get to you via your website, basically? Gotcha. All right. Let's, kind of get ready to close the doors. What's one last tidbit you think you can add value to as far as an entrepreneur who's watching or listening to this?
So I think that you have to remember that your purpose never changes, but your strategy does. And so a lot of times we like to pigeonhole ourselves into a certain thing. For a long time, I wanted to be a speaker and a writer, and I had a Christian blog, and I was, kind of talking about just different things with my faith and my motherhood. And it wasn't until I totally cut off that part of my life that I really stepped into what I'm doing now, which is exactly in essence what I wanted to do. But there were so many lessons I needed to learn, specifically with, my vintage furniture. I learned how to sell a product, which really made me focus on, like, I can't just be doing this altruistically. I can't be just giving advice for free. I need to be making money, because if I'm going to be spending time away from my family, there needs to be some sort of ROI there. And so shifting your focus, I know in real estate, sometimes you could be a real estate investor, you could be a real estate agent, you could be a title person, you could be, somebody who brings all the agents together. There are so many avenues inside one specific place that you could turn and pivot to. And that might be your sweet spot. So you've got to, just like a basketball player, you got to find your sweet spot and operate in that. And don't be scared to give up that, the other spot, because you never know what the spot that you're really meant to make the basket.
Wow, Elaine, Mrs. Everything, man. This has been a really good show. I really do appreciate you taking the time. And actually, for all those people who are watching and listening, please do go to our website. I think that, man, this is, you've added some value. Plus, you're interesting, your whole story. Real quick before we close up, so, you're going for another title, I guess it'd be. Tell us a little bit about that really quickly.
Yes, that means that I do have to walk across the stage in a swimsuit. And then we have gown, and I have national costume. There's a talent portion, but that's optional, which I won't be doing, though I could, because I do spoken word poetry, or at least I did 20 years ago. And so, but it'll be a lot of fun. I'll meet a lot of girls from all over the world and all over the nation that representing the different titles. We have a teen category, a miss category, Ms. and Mrs. So of course I'm in the Mrs. category. So it'll be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to be there.
I really wish you luck. I'm sure you're going to win based on your personality and everything that you've done over your life. I have no doubt that you're going to end up taking the title. No problem at all. One last time, how does someone get a hold of you?
You can go visit me at elainemingus.com or on Instagram if you want to follow my pageant journey. It's USOA Mrs. Texas, or Vintage Furniture is Culture.
Wow, good times, good times. Once again, this is Ken French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Thanks, everybody.